NLC president demands details of allegations against him over invitation of the Nigerian police force as the NLC threatens to go on strike if police dares to arrest its leader. And the federal government set up a 10-man enforcement team over Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. Hello everyone, warm welcome to all of you wherever you may be watching. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloe here in Abuja. Let's begin by giving you the latest in respect of what is happening between the Nigerian police and the NLC president Joe Ajaero. The Nigerian Labour Congress NLC has threatened to go on strike should the Nigerian police force decide to arrest its leader, Mr. Joe Ajaero, the Labour Union leader, and had been invited by the Nigerian police force. But after the meeting by the NLC today in Abuja, the result that the federal government is harassing its leadership. Take a listen to what they agreed on after their meeting earlier today.
At the end of the meeting, we reached some certain resolutions. Part of the resolutions is that as a committed labor center, that we agreed or that we abide by the rule of law and due process. We will honor the invitation of the Nigerian police because we are not a faceless organization, but we believe that we need an extension of time after consultation with our lawyers. And secondly, we resolve that in an event our Congress president was arrested or detained at any moment, we put our appellate on red alert to mobilize our membership across the country, that all workers in this country should down-tool their services. This is the resolution.
That was the resolution of the NLC today after their meeting. Well, so much to talk about in respect of the state of the nation. Perhaps some things that you woke up to today and you got a lot of eminent Nigerians speaking about it tonight. One of those who have seen it all in terms of the relationship of Nigeria to the rest of the globe and its economy, those who have been very much at the highest level and who understand the economy of Nigeria and perhaps the problems they are in. So much that she went out of the country, went to Germany, did a deep dive study into the problems of our politics, came back home and was looking for a local solution to our problems. Tonight, my guest is someone whom you know very well, but is that person who does not shy away from speaking the truth, no matter how tough or difficult it is. We're going to be having some very, very hard and very difficult conversation about the state of the nation. Perhaps we might be able to seek some solutions to our problems. So stick around with me, everyone. We'll go on to find out some of your political roundup stories, and my guest tonight on the program will be speaking with us.
Hearing of the appeal filed against the federal government by a former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, at the Court of Appeal over his alleged illegal removal from office has been stalled. At the recent hearing of the appeal filed on the 9th of July 2019, the Acting Director of Civil Appeals, Mr. Tijani Ghazali, from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, informed the court that the ministry is not in possession of the case file for the trial of the former Chief Justice of Nigeria 5 years after the conclusion of the trial. Justice Jumbo Ofo, who presided over the matter after listening to arguments from the counsel to Justice Onnoghen, granted an accelerated hearing and subsequently fixed September 19 for the hearing of the appeal. Meanwhile, the Court of Appeals sitting in Abuja has dismissed the appeal filed by the Edo State House of Assembly against the Deputy Governor of the state, Philip Shuaibu, on the grounds that the appeal amounts to a waste of time and abuse of court process. In a unanimous decision of the court, the three-man panel presided over by Justice Aki Abubakar dismissed the appeal against Mr. Shuaibu, who was recently reinstated as the Deputy Governor of the state. Governor of Akwa Ibom State, Pastor Umo Eno, says his administration will continue to support meaningful business ideas to expand the state's economy with the overall goal of boosting the well-being of its citizens. The governor gave the assurance while receiving the second Airbus 220-300 from Ibom Air at the Victor Wata International Airport in Uyo, the state capital. And the senator representing Ondo South Senatorial District, Jimo Ibrahim, has called on Nigerian universities to introduce academic programs and researches focusing on the development and control of mega projects in the country. The senator made this disclosure while delivering the 2024 Foundation Day lecture of the Federal University of Technology, Akure, Ondo State, and says this initiative will enable Nigeria effectively manage its resources and will also help the government reduce abandoned projects of government. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara today reaffirmed his membership of the People's Democratic Party, putting to rest months of speculations that he left the party. The governor was rumored to be the strength behind the sudden popularity of the Action People's Party, whose secretariat was struck by an explosive a week ago. At a meeting with the leadership and members of the PDP's Board of Trustees, who paid him a visit at the Government House in Port Harcourt, Governor Fubara said he doubted his membership in the PDP. However, the visit by the BOT has offered some conviction that he is still recognized as a member. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Bar Association in Rivers State is warning the sacked Rivers APC Caretaker Committee Chairman, Mr. Tony Okocha, over his outburst at Justice Sika Aprioku following his sacking by the court. At a joint press briefing by 8 branches of the NBA in Rivers State, they scolded Mr. Okocha of accusing Justice Aprioku of bribery, urging him to provide evidence to back up his claims. The further demanded a retraction of the distasteful comments and an apology. Elder statesman Chief Edwin Clark has accused former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike of engaging in anti-party activities harmful to the People's Democratic Party. He alleged the former governor's conduct has undermined the party's interests and values. He called for his removal for the party's well-being. Chief Clark warned the PDP leadership to beware of the handling of the political activities of the FCT minister. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has ordered the former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello to present himself for arraignment. The appeal court also restrained the former governor from taking any further actions regarding the charges against him until he's been formally arraigned. In a unanimous judgment delivered on Tuesday by Justice Ken Amadi, the court allowed the appeal filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission against the judgment of Honorable Justice Isa Abdullahi Jamil of the Kogi State High Court in a fundamental rights case filed by Bello in February 2024. The court found that the appeal by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Jibrin Okutekpa, on behalf of the EFCC is meritorious and described as scandalous the judgment of the lower court when it held that the purpose of the case instituted at the trial court was to shield Yahaya Bello from his criminal trial.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now you're up to date with your political roundup stories. The other part of the Joe Ajero story I did not tell you before I showed you the political roundup was the fact that Mr. Joe Ajero, the NSA president, has declined the invitation by the police for questioning over alleged criminal conspiracy and treasonable felony. In a letter signed by Samuel Ogala, a principal partner at the Fallon and Fallon's chambers, Mr. Ajero's counsel says that the NLC president is unable to honor the invitation on Tuesday because of other engagements. Yesterday, we do know that the police invited Mr. Ajero over a case of criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, and subversion and cybercrime. The counsel said that Major Ajero will be available for questioning on Wednesday, 29th of August, 2024. Of course, we do know that the federal government has now inaugurated a 10-member committee to enforce the recent Supreme Court ruling that granted financial autonomy to local governments in Nigeria. On the 11th, I think, of July, the Apex Squad had declared that it is unconstitutional for state governors to hold onto funds meant for local government administrations. And 5 weeks on, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, set up the Interministerial Committee to implement the verdict. Discussing these in a statement earlier today, the Director of Information and Public Relations in the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Shegun Omorosen, said Akume would chair the committee. Tonight, my guest on the program is Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, a former vice president of the World Bank and a former Nigeria's Minister of Education. Tonight, we shall be discussing issues relating to the state of the nation as the country tries to find its base with numerous challenges under the current administration. We'll be discussing the state of the economy, the pressing issues affecting the average Nigerian, Dr. Ezekwesili's perspective on the path forward. Dr. Ezekwesili, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's good to see you. It's quite a while, isn't it?
Yes.
Here we are today. You're one of those who are warned and said we're headed for a disastrous run if we're not careful. It does look like the words of, well, you are a Christian. And things are coming to pass. And did you fear that this was going to happen in the long run?
Well, very much so. I mean, the indicators were right there. It depends on in what direction you take it. Whether you decided to think of the ruinous situation we have in the country from the political perspective, it was bound to happen. I mean, what we had in 2023 was not an election, properly so called. There was nothing credible about the presidential election of 2023 and the outcomes that followed. It was very clear that the concept of snatch it, grab it, run with it was going to haunt us if the credible path to competitive democracy was not what we followed in the elections. And it's become clear increasingly, as we've seen the days go by, that we have become victims of absolute collapse of our institutions. And so whether it's the INEC or it's the judiciary, we saw that complete denigration of the principles on which institutional mechanisms are founded. So if you took it on the economic side, it was very clear that we were already in trouble. But guess what? The individuals who are today saying that they met trouble were part of those who said to us that the economy was doing well and that there was no reason for any kind of counter opinion or contrary opinion on the state of economic policy management in the 8 years of their predecessor. So they are very complicit in what became of the economy of this country. And if you took it from a social perspective, the complete ethnocentrism that drove the campaign in the elections of 2023 basically advanced by the kind of political culture that the president enabled has meant that our social cohesion and our social capital even got, really depleted because of the 2023 elections. So where do we start from?
Let me jump in quickly. And there are those who argue that there's been an 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari that really battered the economy. There are those who argue that, and they said on this program that the Buhari government set the economy back 20 years, and that anybody who had to opportunity to run this country after Buhari will experience the kind of problem that we're experiencing today. And do you think that that's not the case?
I actually did say that publicly, that it was not going to be a piece of cake to run the economy because of the absolute devastation of everything that even resembles economic policy. I don't think they were doing economic policy under President Buhari. But this particular administration agreed with it. They agreed with everything that Buhari was doing. So in their own case, nobody should feel sorry for them.
And you think that they
were culpable. They were culpable in it. I think that the problem with the Nigerian society is that we quickly forget these things. I particularly, and you know that I'm very public on my opinion about the governance of the country that I am from. And that's because I understand the basic principles of democracy, that you cannot simply be a person who's got the privilege of education, not just basic education, but you're very, you're very advanced in your knowledge, and also you have political literacy. And just because you are in a place of privilege and comfort, then it doesn't matter to you how the country is governed. It should matter. Even when I was in government, my boss, he used to say, in cabinet, he would say to anybody, just leave Oby alone. If, say, with Oby in my cabinet, do I need a Ganifa Wehimi? I used to think it was a what do you call it, a compliment. And I would say that to him, that's a compliment. Because if we did not interrogate ourselves, if we did not question ourselves, then we would lead the country into the bush. So for me, my point is that when this economy was badly run under the APC administration of President Buhari, all of these people that are telling us that the economy was badly managed were agreeing with the policy direction of that administration. Why now should they try to dissociate themselves?
On one hand is the fact that the economy was badly managed. And I'm yet to see how the past government or any of those who worked in that government is able to come out to defend where they left off as of May 28, 2023, and how they defend what they left for the country as the economy, the state of the economy. But there are those who will say,
what exactly? I still don't understand.
The point I'm making is that those who worked in the last government would probably need some defending of what they did with the Nigerian economy.
Where are you all in all of
that? But the question is that either we got a bad economy or we got a good economy. There is a new government in place. The question is that, have they done a good job in the last 1 year from your own assessment?
You use the indicators. I'm always saying that in God I trust, but every other person must come with their data. And all the data, economic indicators, show clearly that they haven't done a good job of it.
Even when we got a very bad...
Yes, they've worsened it.
What would they have done with that bad situation? Could they have done anything better?
Well, for one, they could avoid the fiscal recklessness and rascality that we see. If you are Nigerian, you should be very vexed at this government. All that we have seen since this government came into office has been fiscal profligacy. Profligacy. That's what we've seen. They've been so totally, I don't even know the word. I'm trying to not use harsh words, but it is difficult not to, because if you see the divergence between what I know to be the daily pain and misery of the Nigerian poor person. I am a pastor's wife, so I get to be in the midst of all segments of society. I know what families are going through. I cry every day because of that. I cry when we read some of the texts that my husband, as pastor of a church, gets. And to see the political class of this country be totally reckless with scarce public resources, a country that is highly leveraged. Being highly leveraged means that we are overburdened with debt. We are crumbling under the weight of debt. When you talk about debt and these guys begin to tell you debt to GDP ratio, that's an incredible nonsense, because that is not the important indicator you use when you don't have the kind of GDP base and structure of economy and revenue, size and scale that those in advanced economies can do. What you are paying attention to is tax revenue or total revenue to debt. And the total revenue to debt has gone from 80%, to any numbers that are higher than that.
I'd like to take you on a few issues. You are a figures person. Your economic expertise, it's up to the global level that you understand what, in comparative analysis, you can tell where Argentina get it wrong, where Brazil is making the curve, and where other countries like Zimbabwe and the rest of the world, where they are doing right or wrong, and you might be able to give us a sense of what we're doing right or wrong. And then those who say there are difficult decisions that any leader of this country would make in getting into power as of 2023. For example, the removal of subsidy. Some of the major presidential candidates said they would do that. And this government would say, this is what other people said they would do, and this government did it. Why would you blame the government? The flotation of the naira, the complex multiplicity of the FX corridor, all of these things are what this government said they fixed. Why is the economy still in such a devastating state that it is right now? And they did say that, look, some of the policies that they've made is like the pain of childbearing. At some point, you will feel the pinch and the pains, but then we'll start feeling the benefit at the end of the day. Do you agree?
So the thing about economic policy choices is that, it's like a pregnancy. No matter how you try to cover it, it will show up. So if you run economic policies that are well designed, sequenced properly, and which have looked at intended and unintended consequences, meaning that there could be things that happen as a result. Even though the outcome is good, there would be some consequences that would not be so good. So let's take the matter of removal of subsidy. One of the things that I've been public about is that we have seen over time that merely changing the price of petroleum products does not give us a sustained benefit of the sector. And so I have been very vocal in saying that what the country needs is a complete deregulation of the petroleum sector. Okay? We did price shifting many times over now, and we've seen that the sector just does not respond to that. Why is that so? Because there are serious governance issues in that sector. Serious governance issues. So just saying we're removing subsidy was not going to be sufficient. So the governance architecture of that sector is still intact with all of its challenges. And you've done one little part of what is supposed to happen in the sector. Look, the petroleum sector is just like any product. Telecom service is a service. Petroleum is a product. The same concept of how markets work would affect outcomes when you do the right reforms. The right reforms that should happen in the petroleum sector of basically changing the roles and duties and responsibilities of the market and the government has not happened. Why is that so? Because people continue to want to, have discretionary powers in that sector. They want to be the ones making the decisions concerning the sector. And what we know about discretionary powers in a sector that can be market-driven is that it will create distortions. So I'm not surprised. I am not at all surprised. That's one part of it. The other part of it.
So sorry a moment. There should have been a dismantling of some sort of the governance.
A complete structural
those
change of
who
the sector.
fingered corruption,
yes,
high-level corruption
yes,
in the oil and gas or the petroleum sector,
yes,
are not incorrect about their position. And if you do not remove those dirty hands, you're still not fixing.
If you want the petroleum sector to deliver well, you see, we have an example before us. We did the structural change of the telecom sector. Are you still running after NITEL? Answer me.
I'm not sure any 20-year-old will know what NITEL is, or 25-year-old.
There is not much of a significant difference, other than, the issue of a refinery. Okay? So if you got the structure of that sector right, what would happen is that they would recognize. You see, the thing about investment is that it is skittish to environments that it is not sure of. There's a certain level of moves within a sector that will signal to the market that this is a sector I can enter. We haven't done that. Why? Because the politicians hog the petroleum sector to themselves. They love the petroleum sector. They want to have it in their full control. So what they've been doing has been, at best, building a halfway house.
So the government is still not serious about fixing the petroleum.
When they are ready, they will do complete deregulation of the sector. And it would mean that the NNPC, which operates as though it is a federal republic of the NNPC, will just become a player. And it would have to be efficient or perish because the market would discipline it. Our politicians don't like market discipline. So, I mean, they don't like it.
Yeah,
the market is an anathema to them because the market just enables what we say in the telecom sector. They don't want that. I recall in the days even of the sector reform to prepare us for telecom sector liberalization, how it was that the people who were in the Ministry of Communication were so angry, including the minister of that time. It was like, you're taking away power from them. You see, discretionary powers, as we know in Transparency International, is what kills most of the developing countries. Because someone is holding so much power to determine life and death. They're going to abuse it. They will abuse it. But the market will discipline.
And we are, a lot of Nigerians, millions of them who are watching tonight, who may not have the nitty-gritty information and the details of what the rot is. I mean, a lot of people might have an idea that there is a rot within the petroleum sector that we need to dismantle and we need to expose. If there is one thing that this president can get right, and they are watching tonight, what would that be to get us forward?
My goodness, it would be to, find some of their incompetent, my goodness, I said incompetent people. Yeah, pun intended, actually. They get some competent technical advice and begin the process of designing a full deregulation of the petroleum sector.
I don't think PI directed us in the right direction.
Well, what has happened? You have to get beyond the articulation. You have to actually sequentially unbundle the situation that you have. Because it's a matter of what incentive are you signaling? You're signaling chaos. You're signaling intervention and interruption in the sector. You're signaling administrative powers that are totally unquestioned. You're signaling a lack of public accountability. So, government, we do know that investors care about the rule of law, the predictability, the certain level of predictability, meaning that they expect to know the rules of the game. Where are the rules of the game in the sector, in the way it's operated? Well, why is the sector still so opaque that, look at the latest thing that we saw with the Aliko Dangote refineries. I mean, that's been a global embarrassment. I've had people ask me questions. And, especially because in this country, we were the first country that stepped up and did what we call the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. And I led it. And so we were the country that had this, can I get this to happen, or it doesn't really matter? No, it doesn't really matter?
So let's take a break so that we can fix that. We're going to break, and when we come back, Dr. Ezekwesili does not agree with the purchase of a new presidential jet. The government will say there is a need for it. He says there is profligacy in the affairs of this government. We'll be hearing more about the state of the nation from Dr. Oby Ezekwesili when we return from this break. Join us. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Dr. Oby Ezekwesili is my guest on the program. Let's continue with our conversation. Let's wrap up this conversation on subsidy. For you, it doesn't make sense that the market forces are supposed to determine the price. Well, it does look like the price is stagnant, yet we see the differentials between the Nigerian naira and the dollar. And again, there are those who are accusing the government of still paying subsidy. And there are those who say, look, how do we move forward from here? What are your thoughts? And you have engaged countries in removal of subsidies. You have helped to midwife those kind of engagement. Where did we get it wrong and how can we move forward?
I think I would just simply be repeating myself if I answered it that way, because I've said it, that there is something about preparing a sector to become a market sector, okay? Market-driven sector. We haven't done that. You have what was agreed in the Act, that is the PIA, and the Petroleum Investment Act, right? That's what it's called. And how much of it has happened? How much of it has happened? People are still holding to people in government, because the NNPC is still a government entity. I mean, the NNPC man would go to the president just in the same way that they used to go all this time, including when we were in government. But the whole idea of the act was to tilt it. Government has no business. What's the president doing? Sitting with the NNPC managing director every time to talk what? Go to the market. Go to the market. So this sector is waiting for a proper deregulation. And as you said, they need to get serious about implementing the act, because we implemented the act on the telecom sector. That's why today Nigerians have access to telecom, telecom services, right? They don't need to call anybody. The competition is going on very well. There are issues occasionally, and there would need to be more investment in the backbone and all of that. But it's a sector that is market-driven, and it is working. The same thing could happen to aviation. The same thing could happen to petroleum sector, the energy sector. We also had a proper sectoral reform that ended up in the Energy Sector Act, right? I was a member of that reform team for the energy sector, the unbundling of MEPA, and then the preparation for the privatization. What went wrong? As soon as we left government, the next administration rolled back on it. Otherwise, the energy sector would have been a greater version, as a matter of fact, of the telecom sector. Because when subsequently they began the implementation of the roadmap of action for the sector, what happened? The kind of jokers that they gave the various discos and gencos to run. Look at this sector. They haven't told us the story of that sector yet, because that sector is part of the reason that the financial sector faces crisis that are right now under the government funds. Nigerian money goes into those guys are almost bankrupt. Well, the government is putting money. You hear how much billions the government is putting back into that sector. You know it. Yet we are seeing darkness. No, you know it. And guess what? The truth of that sector is that sector holds back a lot of the productivity of the economy. And that's something that people should really give attention to. That sector could have just been, as I said, a greater version of the success of the telecom sector. Now, with this petroleum sector and the shenanigans going on there, if the government would even have 0.1 credibility of accepting that the deregulation of the sector has to really be launched in the way that is very short-term, medium-term, long-term, and we see evidence of it, what would happen is that it sends a signal right now, all the signals about that sector going in the different direction.
I saw your reaction, and I'm taking away from the petroleum sector. Uh, your reaction to the statement of the presidency about the presidential jet. Those who argue the safety, there was a safety problem. There was the jet that is being replaced was since the Obasanjo government, the one that was purchased in
you
the
mean,
Obasanjo.
You mean Obasanjo's new craft that that is now 19 years old?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's not speak in general terms.
Yeah, no, so
that craft is a 19-year-old craft, and it was a new craft. I think it was a B737 craft. Okay? Now, in everything that we have heard justifying the basis for a new craft, and by the way, I'm absolutely upset that these fellows would dare to play with the intelligence of the Nigerian public. Between the executive, the president, the presidency, the National Assembly, I think they are decided that they are the bandits. They are the bandits.
Ooh,
all of them. The political class has decided that they are the bandits against the people of Nigeria. Because I do not see how it is feasible that the topmost priority of a government that has this level of biting hunger in the land, this level of poverty, where its people are dropping into poverty per minute, would consider the purchase of a befitting aircraft for the president, the construction of a 20 billion naira home for the vice president, the purchase of all kinds of funny-looking cars, and the fleet of the National Assembly members and the executive. What exactly is that? And I speak with a lot of moral authority. I served this country. They want everything about what I earned. They can find it in their folder. As a minister, they have something called Minister's Impress or something vote. My PAMSEC, Abokizawa, will tell you until tomorrow that I did not touch a dime. So when people say all these things, were you not in government? I was in a sane government. I wasn't in a government that watches women screaming, Ebin Kwawa, we're hungry, we haven't eaten. People used to do 0, something or 1. Today, families write and say, our children haven't eaten in the last 3 days because we just cannot afford the prices in the market. When inflation is at 40%, it erodes the poor. It literally, look, central banks exist to manage inflation.
Can you blame the presidency? This is the explanation of the presidency.
I am very upset.
The recommendation, yes, according to Bayo Onanuga, it says the recommendation to replace the B737.
Who is Bayo Onanuga?
Is a special advisor to the president on information and strategy. And he wrote and said, a B737 700 BBJ followed, the replacement followed an investigative hearing by Nigeria's parliament
by Nigeria's parliament?
Yeah, that
my
questions
goodness, how
the plane's
ridiculous does
safety
that get?
record and cost efficiency, especially after it malfunctioned during a trip to Saudi Arabia. If you were president, wouldn't you get a befitting aircraft, or would you fly a commercial aircraft?
If I were president and I see the people of my country in this state of affairs, and I would go out and buy an aircraft for myself, you got another thing coming, Sheung. When you are a leader, you are first in the line to inconvenience yourself. That's what leadership is about.
So
who told you that leadership is about luxury? Who told you? You see, this version of political leadership in our country, I think Nigerians need to wisen up. There is nothing about leadership that gives an advantage over the people. The leader is the one who takes the cost so that the people can get the benefit. That's what leadership is. This bunch of people in the National Assembly, in the executive, in government houses, in the states, these are not political leaders. Until we get to the place where we're saying to ourselves, the greatest risk and danger to the sustainability and viability of Nigeria is the political class of this country. These are rascals by every definition of the word. And I am not mincing words about it, because if you look at the choices that our political class are consistently making, you can see clearly that they don't care about the country. This country can go to ruin for as long as these people are able to feed the avarice, this appetite, unending appetite for just gnawing away at the public treasury. They are fine. But if citizens are fine with it, so be it. If we're not fine with it, there is a class war that they have launched against the people. And that war needs to be fought.
Let me pause you for another moment. You would have run into a risk of a criminal offense if the law that the National Assembly were to pass had come to effect about the national anthem, because you had a difference on that particular. We will go into a break. And when we come back, we get a view of Dr. Oby Ezekwesili on the national anthem. If that law were to go through, what would have happened to the likes of Dr. Oby Ezekwesili? We'll be back after this break, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Our closing moment right now with Dr. Oby Ezekwesili. That those who will say, you're saying this because you are not in power. Those who are in the National Assembly says they need vehicles to run the show, to be able to reach their constituency. The National Assembly has said there is a safety problem with the aircraft of the president. You worked under a government that President Obasanjo bought a brand new aircraft. Why are you upset that this government is buying an aircraft that is so cheap and the price had gone so low? And that those who say, if you were in government,
I'm sure you
probably would have done the same.
Oh, please. That's the kind of beer parlor talk that I don't have time for. Because, the case is very clear. Take, for example, the matter of what ministers were earning when I was in government. In my own case, I actually, by going into government, I took a 90% cut of my salary compared to what I was earning as a staff of Harvard University. So this is nonsense talk. For anybody to say you were in government, who are you comparing with who in this country? On the matter of profligacy that we've seen in governance, please.
Is this government luxurious in its approach? Did you see anything that looks luxurious in the approach of this government to lifestyle?
I think you're telling me that you're going to ask me questions to infuriate me, so that I will get angry. Thank you very much for doing that. So the thing is, when your priorities are all going in the direction of things that do not add in any way to the productivity and competitiveness of the economy that you are responsible for, and your people are sliding more and more in poverty, especially your young are looking at their future and seeing it bleak. And all you're saying is, I justify the fact that I need a new aircraft. I justify the fact that we really need vehicles that cannot stop on the road because we are senators and we're members of the House. Oh, I justify my being given a brand new house as vice president of the country. And you're justifying just nonsense investment. No, they're not even investments. Nonsense wastes of public resources. And you're telling me to debate that. There's nothing to debate. I can tell you clearly that there is a sell-by date for this kind of behavior. It can't sustain. We just don't have the bandwidth for it to sustain. Where are they going to? This is not going to sustain. Look, the divergence that exists right now, where the political class think that they belong, it's almost like we're running a fiefdom. So we've got this sense of all of the few of them that are in office are thinking of it as this is our empire, and we give to the head of the empire whatever he wants. The president wants the toy of a new aircraft. So what do you think happens? The National Assembly pretends to itself, and they even dare to say to us that they did some investigation. Well, what investigation did they do? Let them share it with us. What is wrong with transparency? And to think that you bought a 14-year or 15-year-old craft, that as you're the third recipient, user of the craft you bought, and you tell us this long story, and then you go buy an Airbus. There's something wrong with delusion. You know, this is delusional because it means that our political class, they are seeing themselves as being in a class that they don't belong to. I said it when we were in government to my colleagues. I would say to them, you know, we haven't produced the kind of a country that can compare with Singapore. If the Singaporean minister comes out and is saying certain things, he has every right, or she has every right to say it. But we, with the misery around us, we can't indulge. So for people to indulge, please don't cut this kind of slack for anybody. There's nothing in the expenditures that have happened. And by the way, the critical thing for this country is the restructuring of this country. The truth is that happen. Look, listen, with a credible, legitimate, transparent, honest set of actions, we can get the conversation toward restructuring this country. And by the way, don't think that restructuring is a long-term objective. Oh, we have to finish running the economy. Part of the reason that they can mess up in the way they are doing is because of the structure that they operate with.
Dr. Ezekwesili, I just have 60 seconds, literally 60 seconds to go. There is going to be a possibility of a 10-year J term for those who refuse to sing the national anthem. You had said you were not going to at some point at an event, but it's been withdrawn now.
No, I don't sing the
new national anthem.
No, I don't believe in that. I sing the national anthem that basically represents the country based on the legitimacy process. Now, they did a national anthem in the covers of the night. Between the National Assembly and the president, they did not follow the constitutional procedure for changing an act. It's in the Constitution. They did not. They basically negated all the provisions. And so, as far as I am concerned, it's my personal choice. When we stand up to sing the national anthem, I sing, "Arise, O compatriots."
Is it compatriot-like if you're not abiding by the law?
No, this is not. This is an illegality.
We are totally out of time. But if Kamala Harris becomes the first female president of the United States, it says something. We see Oby Ezekwesili running for president again.
You know, Oby Ezekwesili is spending her time training and raising a counter-political class to the rascality we see in our society today.
It's always a pleasure. I need literally 3 hours to discuss some of these issues with you. 1 hour is far from being enough. But thank you so much anyways for honoring the invitation.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Shehu. And the media, you have a responsibility. Public accountability is the bedrock of any democracy. And you can't fail us.
We're doing our best right here at Channel Television. Thank you so much indeed. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks to my guests and those of you who have watched tonight. I'm Sean Okimale. I'll see you next time. God bless Nigeria.